Hey, good evening, Minnesota Libertarians. My name is TJ, and I'm joined tonight by Charley Kuklins and Joey Gamache. Uh, we have a great night. I've been off a few weeks, and I know I wasn't here to defend myself. I did hear a few cuts in the beginning of last week's show because I had a few responsibilities that I had to take care of before going on vacation, and it was quite a lovely vacation. Did you guys have a good Memorial weekend?
Yeah, it was good. I smoked some ribs and some chicken wings and, had a couple people over. So, yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, visited family graves. Good stuff.
All right.
I've got a tradition that I've been doing with my old man since I was 11, and we've been going to the North Shore of Lake Superior and at this one resort in Schroeder, Minnesota, since 2002. So, been quite a regular scene there Memorial Weekend, and this last few years we stayed till Tuesday to avoid all the traffic coming back home. It's just great. But
Cool.
so anyways, I guess the session has been ended, and or has it? I guess they didn't pass the budget bill.
It's semi-ended, right? So we're officially over, but unofficially haven't passed a big bill, right?
Yeah. So, what do you think that really means?
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, they're going to get called back into special session in order to pass the budget bill and keep Minnesota government moving, at least solvent to this point.
I wonder if they get paid more for that if it goes into special session. I mean, I'm sure the per diem, they get the per diem extra, but I think the salary must be for a whole year salary, and you do what you do for this year, and we're in the for.
It's not like they get paid hourly,
right?
They get paid a salary for the position. It's only supposed to be a part-time position. So I know in the past there's been people talking about making Minnesota legislature a full-time position, which would be interesting. I'm not sure we need it.
I think they should go back to only meeting once every 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay. That'd be good.
They're going the wrong direction.
They really are. And everything is, but that's what democracy dictates, right? That's what happens. That's how the blob has to grow.
They started out this session not meeting for 3.5 weeks. So
yeah,
I mean,
well, yeah. So I wonder. I haven't seen any
over under on 3 weeks of a special session.
Yeah, who knows? Like this has been such a boondoggle for this session. Like I don't know that anything of meaning has passed. Like I've been trying to watch a bunch of different things, and I don't know.
Well, before we got on, I have it on one of my tabs. On May 20th, there's like 20 bills that were passed, like 25 laws now, and I think I got through the third one before I really had to go throw up. I mean, it is what it is. This is how I view it. I'm sure the three of us view it this way, where the spending money, they're just creating things to spend money for. And the amount of time that I spent at that Capitol this session, I see it. I see that people get dressed up to go and plead for some of our money, but they don't realize it. They just think the Capitol has the money and they're going to give it to us. These legislators are going to hit this gavel, and then we're going to get granted this $500,000 or $1 million here and there. But this program, and if you take it away from somebody, well, then you affected their life, greatly. And,
and then now you're stealing from them because they've earned it.
Yeah.
I think what's funny is we've gotten to this point where we're not authorizing grants per se. We're authorizing named grants, right? So we're actually naming the recipients of the grants in the bills, which is kind of bizarre, right? I mean, It's just ripe for corruption at that point when you're saying, hey, we're going to give this person a grant instead of like, we're going to grant for this program and allow people to compete for the grant. Right now, we're just naming people and saying, you get the grant.
I mean, to a degree, I agree with that, but I also view it the other way, that the way that these grants were divvied out was it followed a process, but that process was different for each sub-department that the grant was assigned through, and not always actually open to public comment, or so it was always opaque, it was always shady, and now the process just happened before the bill passed instead of after it.
Yeah, I dig that too, because I hate these foundations. I mean, Bill and Melinda Gates or the Clinton Foundation, they just collected all this garbage money, and it's for a good cause or whatever. Just a Taco Bell drive-through, we round up 37 cents for education something, and it's like, what in the world is this? What is happening right here? Because that is literally that's a higher revenue stream than dang 694 and White Bear Avenue, man, by the Maplewood Mall. I mean, those folks, that's a legal panhandling right there. I don't know. I just don't see it going for a good cause. I'm sure there's someone that believes that there's a good cause there, but I'm sure the thousands of dollars that go through just this Taco Bell.
You're saying, okay, I see what you're saying. So the enterprise is now partnered with a foundation to collect Roundup.
Yeah, and that's kind of been the trendy thing. I thought it went away because now it's like, at first it's like, okay, yeah, sure, why not? Why, especially if it's just a penny or whatever, and you just good round number. But
I've always refused on principle. I'm not going to let a corporation take credit for my tax deductible donations, because that's what happens.
John Stossel has a real good one about that, and about the pedal. Is it panhandling or it's panhandling, isn't it?
Panhandling.
Okay, I don't know why I feel like that's not the right word, but yeah,
those guys, call it fundraising.
Man, you can make some dough, tax free. Just gotta swallow your pride or something, I guess. I don't know how people do that shit, but
yeah,
especially when you can tell when you're able to work. I don't know. And the thing is there are so many charities, and I do volunteer for a lot of them, that these food shelves that I incorporated with, that there's a lot more help there than you don't need to just be sitting there begging.
Yeah.
But anyways, so talk about beggars. So back to legislation.
Back to the politicians.
Yeah, these guys. I mean, I'm not kidding you. That's exactly what I witnessed so much, is just begging.
Well, what were some of the things that you were doing up there at the Capitol?
Well, Joey and I and Porcupine Ryan, that guy's a go-getter, dude. I tell you what, he wasn't afraid to talk to anybody, but it was the swamp, literally was. You got the two chambers, the House and the Senate, that on the second floor, and as the session goes in and out, whatever, there's just lobbyists all over the place, and that's what we were. And so, hey, there's Representative so-and-so, and there's Representative so-and-so said they'll meet us right out here. So then we look around, and they're actually fairly timely. And I tell you what,
two times out of three, they show up for those.
Okay.
Hold on. Set the scene again. Hold on 1 second. I got to understand this. Set the scene again.
All right. So from what I saw, the way that it often works is that the House will be on the floor while the Senate is in recess, and then vice versa. So even though they have two different chambers, they're never operating at the same time.
Oh, I never even noticed that.
This pool of strangers, this crowd of people in suits hanging out in the open space on the second level in between. And legislators will spend the time that they're not on the floor out there talking. And that's whether their particular house is in session or not. So people will send messages through the page office to go let Representative so-and-so know that they're out there and ready to talk to them. And then Representative so-and-so, unless there's something urgent going on the floor, which there never is.
Right.
They will decide in the moment whether they're going to go do that or not. So then people will just leave the floor even while the house is in session and come talk to whoever for 5-10 minutes, sometimes 15.
So is it like, I mean, do you have to, so you're out there and you just say, hey, can I talk to?
Yep. You fill out a form with the page office and they send it onto the floor with one of their runners, and the message gets ignored or read and discarded. You'll never know.
Or what Ryan was doing was actually contacting their assistants and setting up appointments. And so we had to sit down with a couple of them in their offices. So we went to that Centennial building, which I think is just their temporary building while that other one gets built next door. And so can't wait to go see that swamp too. But these folks had, I think, a heck of a setup considering they had a whole floor of that big building. But just a bunch of cubes and a few office or meeting rooms. And, I thought I was actually very impressed with how nice everybody was to us. Really. It was something I expected a little more hostility, especially, I mean, not from Leon Lilly, because he's already shown to me that he's a pretty good guy. But that guy, he brought me into the house floor and gave me a little tour and sat down. We chatted
TJ,
for
you
like
are
20
one of
minutes.
his constituents,
And,
even if you're also his oft-times political opponent.
Oh, I get it. No, okay. I'm
yeah,
but
you talk positively about the guy, and you have before. So you won't.
Well, I think that's. I mean, but that's an important thing. Like, so being out there, how often are people showing up to talk to their representatives?
Well, I don't know who the people in suits are. If they're actual, like some of them are people like us. We're like we are not representing a corporation. We're just concerned citizens who might have an affiliation with some organization or another, but they're not paying us to be there. And I'm sure there are individuals there as well, but there are also people who are there as paid lobbyists, and they don't exactly.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm sure in some locations they wear name tags, but not in that room.
Right.
Yeah, no, the two that we met weren't married, who we knew. Like a good old friend of Ryan and a good old friend of mine are both paid lobbyists that work up there that were very active that week. And, they obviously have a full day of schedule and things to do while we're just kind of wandering like, oh, hey, there's that. If we don't have if we have appointments scattered throughout a day, so it's not like we're going to leave and come back. So it's kind of like wander around and hoping that somebody would come out, and which there was once. Then Bliss comes out of the house and he looks right at me and looks at my pin and he's like, well, who are you with? Because he's not met me, but he's met a whole bunch of us other folks that are, hounding him big time. And it was really interesting that he didn't know who I was, but I get it, So, but he did then recognize that I was Ryan and I showed up to one of the committees before, and we chatted about that. And then him and I kind of got
and Ryan got me involved, hoping that I would calm things down. And usually I'm a very polite individual, but this time was an exception.
Oh.
No, I was digging Joey's fire right there too. Yeah, that was awesome. But the thing, and it was actually me that had to be like, you know what, we're not just going to.
We've entered into our fight or flight mode. We're no longer thinking.
I hate saying agree to disagree, but that's what it's because it's not that we're not at the terminating end here yet. We're not done with this discussion.
Talking points at each other in increasingly loud volumes and getting mad that we were being interrupted by each other, and that was not helping.
Yeah, that's not solving exactly. That's not solving anything at that moment.
That evolved rather quickly.
But it was that was probably the most exciting time for me. Other than hitting the speaker's gavel, like I said, I got to go in there and take a picture. That was kind of cool. But and I really want to say thanks to Representative Drew Roach, man. That guy has been really huge, and without him coaching Ryan, really, and then Ryan taking that ball and running with it and just calling all these folks. And then, I feel like I think a lot of us could get in. If you get into it, you start getting in that motion, like petitioning. Like it's always that first step, the first door. Once you get that door in, man, we're on a roll. And then it's kind of like you don't want to stop. Well, that was where I felt like Ryan was. Like he got into this. He's like, oh, I'll call this person. These and plus they're being really nice. So hey, win-win, I guess. Not until we win. We're not.
Well, I've heard some good things. Some people start coming around, right? Like at least having the conversation, open to the conversation, and I think that's one of the biggest things is get the exposure out there. Like you've still got representatives that haven't that didn't hear about this. Like they didn't understand what the rules were, what the impact was.
Yeah, there were a lot of particularly DFLers who had very positive interactions with us. Now, whether they're actually going to end up backing the bill is a different question, but they seemed like they were very receptive to at least the effort that we were going to and the outcome that we desired.
But you get people thinking about it from a different perspective. Like they're like, oh, I didn't even realize how the military operates, right? Like you're like, hey, well, like
if we didn't put that kernel in the minds right now, right? They have all summer now to think about this, and 4th of July, Memorial Weekend right now, and all these different things. And now they have maybe a possible moving of their Overton window or perspective, you know what I'm saying, of where they're starting to think of things a little differently. Like we have all turned that point, turn that corner of realizing like Charlie and I are both vets, man, and we were both gung-ho, ready to freaking fight these wars.
And that's, I think, so the other thing is now you give them something else to think about when there's new signs of war, right? When there's new things popping up all over the place and you go, oh, crap, we've got to remedy this somehow. Or you actually, so like the way I think about it is like, this is something that our state representatives can have an effect on the military industrial complex at a federal level, right?
Yep.
So it's like
they see something happening and they think, oh, well, I'm not comfortable with that. They'll use whatever tool is lying around to make themselves feel more comfortable. And the tool that we have left on their coffee table is this bill.
And to this point, they've probably felt their hands are tied, right? Mm-hmm. They can't affect like the military. Well, that's not necessarily true.
They don't feel the populism behind it yet. But that's another main real big thing I learned out there was the team shit that this party crap is, man.
Yeah.
And
100%.
if this person signs on for it, I will. And it's like, are you representing your district or is this person representing your district? You're saying this shit right out loud to me that you don't even care.
There was an awful lot of that, an awful lot of I will vote however so-and-so tells me to, or if so-and-so's involved, then I can't be, or I won't be involved unless so-and-so is.
Yeah, and that's
so those are the lemmings, right? Those are the lemmings.
Wow, they're all lemmings. I mean, no offense to the handful of actual decision makers there, but I'm not making much of a stretch when I say the majority of elected state reps are not choosing their own talking points.
Yeah.
That's just crazy too, to think how easy it is to have that job and to do what they're tasked to do. I don't see it being something they need such staff for. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I get it. Like one person can't know everything. So I understand that they've got people telling them what to think. It's a messed up system, and I think we all know that. So
yeah, and I'm less frustrated when they're looking to their legislative assistants for advice than I am when they're looking to the person who was in a different office.
Yeah, they're looking to they're also relying on the lobbyists to provide them information, right? But that information is biased based on who's lobbying for what, right? Who's got the money paid to pay for whatever study to push for something. So,
well, hey, that's funny you talk about paying for a study because the Democrats just blew $20 million on a study on how to speak to men. How crazy!
Absolutely.
That was an excellent transition, TJ. I had one more thing to say on the previous topic.
Oh, did you?
Yep. I wanted to
All right.
bring up, I wanted to double back to the populism angle because you mentioned that, TJ, and Ryan and I went to a handful of left-wing protest events and teach-ins and whatnot, and we were talking to people at those events about Defend the Guard and how it fits into their worldview, because this is a way that they could affect how the military-industrial complex, how the warfare state is impacting people of Palestine.
Yep.
The U.S. government is going to be less able to interfere in there with boots on the ground if states withhold their National Guard from overseas conflicts unless wars.
Man, it wouldn't have been cool too if USAID really got the cuts that we were hoping, that all that shit that we saw, because that also plays into a lot of this crap and why we're doing these wars. But
yeah,
I think those those colonels and you and Ryan doing that work, and everybody that we talk to just kind of, and I'm not saying we have to, because it's obviously against our non-aggression principle to be all aggressive on somebody and be like, hey, do you know about Defend the Guard? But we can respectfully bring it up, and it's fun sometimes because it seems like common sense to me. And so I guess when somebody looks at me and is like, well, it's not so common sense, like what how is it not? Like I and especially for the Republicans that Joey saw me we were in a little private meeting with one of the guys, and his assistant was a National Guard member, and it's kind of like all the worry was the funding. Their worry is, oh well, funding later. If we do this now, well, the funding is later. I was like, well, that's a debate then later for you to say to some dickhead to say, well, you're not going to fund this because now we have the right to do this.
right.
Like that's all. Like, so why would the funding be taken off just because you must hold yourself accountable?
Yeah, and something that annoyed me about certain interactions, I'm not going to specify which ones, is the term readiness. When the question is asked, how will this affect our readiness? That means multiple different things at the same time. It means, how is this going to affect federal funding for the Minnesota National Guard? It also means, how is this going to affect how the Minnesota National Guard interlaces with the other elements of the military-industrial complex? And it also, although less explicitly, references how is this going to affect the ability to initiate force of the military troops that are involved in this conversation. And that's something that I think gets overlooked intentionally, is when you're saying, how does this affect our readiness? Readiness to what? Readiness to shoot at people in other countries.
It won't
Because
stop them from training. It won't stop them from training.
Yeah, it won't stop them from training. It won't stop them from being sent to natural disaster areas or national security issues on domestic soil. It's only going to affect their ability to shoot at people overseas.
Right.
Now, here's the thing. It's a drastic change from the last 2 generations of Army, Navy, and Air Force, soldiers, sailors,
Absolutely.
and airmen. So everybody's belief of what military and everything should be is just so different because of 2 whole generations of people have had this whole thought has been the thing.
But I think that's the point, is we've gotten really comfortable. We've gotten really comfortable sending people overseas.
100%. No, I agree. We totally agree to this, that we've now come to that conclusion.
All right.
We should probably divert back to TJ's lovely segue into the next
segue.
It wasn't good timing, though. So apparently, I just learned about this tonight, but I think Charlie might have the story here that something about how to talk to men.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull this up real quick if I can share my screen. Let me see. Select window.
First thing I thought of was the David Hogg guy. He's the new vice chair of the DNC. So I thought maybe this might be his thing, but then I also heard that he's totally straight. So I guess I don't know.
Am I sharing this right? Stay up to date. No, I don't want to stay up to date with notifications. Right?
Hey, screen sharing. Nice.
All right, so Democrats spending millions to learn how to speak to American men and win back the working class. So this is the Independent article. Just came out on Monday. It says, look at this. Party leaders are holding up in luxury hotel rooms on a strategic code named SAM, or Speaking with American Men, a strategic plan to try and convince working class to vote their way again.
Why wouldn't it be SWAM?
I don't know.
Why is the acronym always got to be weird?
Sam, like a man's name.
I mean, to be fair, they're weird enough to be able to say, "Hey, we're gonna study how to speak with American men." You know, but this is such a dig on them as a party. Like, seriously,
yes,
you're actually realizing that your whole party is no longer connecting with like the citizens of your country.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't understand. Like you've completely divested from your morals. You've gone so far away. You're no longer connecting with a huge piece of the population. They're trying to reconnect with like the non-mainstream media, which is now mainstream media, right? So like
the whole thing, the legacy media is no longer mainstream.
Right. So it's like, hey, nobody's watching CNN and MSNBC anymore. It just does, like, you don't have the ratings. So they're trying to figure out, okay, what are the buzzwords? What's the lexicon that we need to incorporate into our independent media to be able to sway people our way? And it's like, no, like Joe Rogan's Joe Rogan because he just has conversations with people. Right.
And they've spent the last decade making fun of him for the smallest slights they can come up with,
right,
and throwing accusations with varying degrees of insanity or connection to reality or factual accuracy.
And then you wonder
else.
People gravitate towards that. You wonder why people gravitate towards honest conversation, right? They're like, how can we? The biggest freaking craziness, I can't even think of the word right now because it's I'm fumbling for it, but they're so disoriented that they're going through a study to seem honest.
Yes. How, please, here's a pile of $20 million. Please explain to us how we can come off as authentic to working class American men.
How do we develop this authenticity? It's like, dude, because you don't believe in what the hell you're saying. You just don't.
Or is it at this point is like how do you train people to then tell people, train people already freaking words I don't really want to say on there and tell them how to tell other people how to talk to men.
But that's the thing.
It's about 10 years too late, at least.
In their mind, they think it's the language. They think it's the words that they need to say that provide authenticity, not the emotion, not the actual thought process of coming up with your own ideas and being able to explain them and have a clear vision and clarity and say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. Not that authenticity. We want a faux authenticity. Right, we want to seem authentic, but still toe the party line. It's like
this is missing the point altogether.
Yep,
absolutely ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And leave it to David Hahn, or not David Hahn. David Hahn's the GOP guy. Ken Martin, right? Ken Martin's now the chair of the DFL, the Democratic Party nationally.
Yeah, the national.
That's right.
Which makes sense. It makes sense that Ken Martin, from the Minnesota DFL, was the chair of the Minnesota DFL, who is now the chair of the DNC, right, would bring up a study to figure out how to speak to men.
I will say that this is not, I do not credit him with this idea. My belief is that they were going to do this anyway, that they failed so miserably in November that they realized that they statistically cannot win an election in this country if they can't talk to 49.9% of the people in this country.
I'll give you that. I can't say that this was his idea. But man,
it may be apropos for him to be at the head of the organization when they announce it. I'll give you that too.
This is just like, how do you like? I don't understand. This is like a media blunder, right?
Well,
The announcement of the funding of this project demonstrates how incapable they are of doing the thing.
Look at our activism. Look what we're trying to do. We're going to try and win races we're going to run races in places that, we know we're not going to win. But I think his tweet, here's the thing. This is why I do think it was kind of his idea, because he sent out a tweet. I don't know if it was yesterday or today, but he was like, no, we're not skating to where the puck is. We're skating to where the puck will be. That's why we're running races. We're gonna run races in red states that we know, like, we have typically lost. And it's like, okay, well, like,
hey man, I dig his enthusiasm, because that's where I'm at. Really, that's where I believe what we're doing.
But the problem with that is
he's retarded. He doesn't know where people are going. They think that this is the way, because that's their bubble, and they're literally such an echo chamber.
Yeah, that is the issue, is that they have a bubble that they live in, and that bubble teaches them that this is how you need to communicate, and that has alienated half of the population of this country. And these are the areas in which we excel, and that does not align with how 70+% of Americans actually view the world right now.
Right. So it's a funny blip in time right now. Like, I don't know that it's going to continue. Maybe they'll pull it back. Maybe they'll be like, oh, this is not the way we want to spend $20 million after spending over $1 billion on the Harris Walz campaign.
I say go.
Yeah, no, they've got to do this. They've already got as much negative press as they're going to out of this, because people are never going to not bring this up when they're complaining about how inauthentic the DFL is. They've already committed the money. They've already taken the hit. They need to double down and to just actually fund it, actually do the project.
But I'm curious. Like, let's theorize what those results are going to look like. Like, okay, what is the study actually doing? Are you going to study new media? Like, are you actually going to sit down? Now, the funniest thing is, like, okay,
who are they paying?
What's that?
Who are they paying?
Well, that's one thing.
Tell me the name of the organization. I'll tell you what the outcome of the study is going to be.
Are you going to pay Democratic people to watch Joe Rogan or Tim Pool or anybody to learn where the audience is peaking? Are you actually going to pay Democratic supporters to do that? And then what would be funny is that, like, hey, these guys are kind of right. Like,
I mean, here's the thing: is I don't think they're going to pay Democratic supporters. I think they're going to pay swamp monster think tanks, and depending on which swamp monster think tank they pick, that swamp monster think tank is either going to tell them exactly what they want to hear, which will be utterly useless to them, or is going to tell them exactly what they need to hear, which is going to be very frustrating for them.
Right.
Because then they'll be in the position of, okay, we've got this professional advice that this is where the trends are, and these are the things people value from that: the authenticity, the unstructured conversations, the willingness to have people of multiple viewpoints on the same call or on in back-to-back weeks, and the preference for view on demand rather than scheduled television time.
Which is absolutely funny, because, like, those are the exact things that, like, they're completely against. None of their platforms will have opposing views, right? I think. Well, I will say,
and they brag about it too.
What's his name? Jennings. Was it Brian Jennings, or who's the guy on CNN that?
I have not watched CNN once in the last 10 years.
The guy that got caught lying?
No, he's the GOP kind of whipping boy, but he's like
oh, the dude that goes on CNN. Every once in a while, he's got some fun clips.
Yeah, exactly. He's good. Like I don't mind him. Anyway, but it's those kinds of things. It's like, hey, you're elite podcaster who, like, I don't even know who a left wing or a left leaning podcaster would be right now. Maybe
Well, there
like
are quite a few.
The Young Turks,
Pod Saves America.
Pod Save America. I know like Hassan Piker.
Yeah. I mean, Jimmy Dore's anti-corporatist, right? Anti-corporatist left, so he's not anybody that they can rely on. I mean, heck, they basically lost Cenk Uygur at this point. The Young Turks are led by a guy who hates the Democratic National Committee with a burning passion.
No, and I'm loving all that. I hope they disappear. Although it's like those folks need to get out of the bubble. If they, I'd love to have a big tent, and I do know that we all came from all different sides. You know what I mean? Like chair of my CD4, Dan, was a total lefty, and I was total not. But the thing is, we're absolutely aligned now, and that's where I'm afraid I don't know all.
But I think like what's interesting to me is they're coming at it with a goal, right? And their goal is to get people to vote for them again. They're not willing to change their policies, right? They're not willing to change their policies to get people to vote for them again. They want to understand. They want to understand the psychology of why people are following people. To get them to vote for them, so they can influence people again to vote for them, and it
seems like the wrong logic to me.
Right,
they're using the D&D spellcaster approach, which is okay. What is the babbling and hand waving I need to do in order to get the spell to come out the way I want it to? They're not interested in the structure.
Bizarre.
They're interested in the screaming and hand waving.
Like, if you want me to pay me $20 million, I'll write some crazy report that says like, oh yeah, you guys are doing great. All you need to do is say these buzzwords, you know, like that. I think that's what they're fishing for they're looking for a key, right? They're looking for a key to unlock the demographic that they've lost. And in all reality, it's the younger generation too, like the kids that are graduating high school right now, that are coming up to vote, that are like, screw this noise. Like, it's the younger generation that's kind of flipping on them, and
I hope so.
I know, but here's the problem, and I've heard a couple people say it, and it's not. This isn't my, these are my. I'm saying it right now, but I've heard from other people that like, when you completely beat down a generation of men and say, try to teach them how to act, and it's like it doesn't coincide with history, and you constantly rag on them and beat them down, they're going to revolt. They're going to look for. They're not going to pay attention.
No, I think that's been going on for over a decade now, for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know. Anyway, I have a remedy.
Yeah.
I have a remedy, and I think it's to a lot of problems, right? And I think I'm going to segue into a different scenario. So if you have something else to say on this topic, feel free.
Only pithy, uninformative things.
Only okay. It seems like both major parties right now give lip service to transparency. Right? They say they want to be transparent. They say we need transparency. We need people to trust us. We need this and that, but they're not willing to do anything. So what I've been kind of working on outside of my day job, essentially, is to provide that transparency. So one of the biggest things in my mind is that we need people to be, I mean, we always know we need people to be active in their local government, right? That's probably number one, is have people active in their local government. But how do you do that, right? How do you do that by when there's so many roadblocks in front of people to say, oh, you've got to sign up ahead of time for this city council meeting, and here's all the petitions, here's all this stuff. We need to start making data just blatantly transparent. We have the technology now to do it, right? We haven't changed this process in, I don't know, it's been a couple of decades, right? So accounting hasn't changed in a long time, right? Accounting's accounting.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It kind of is what it is. But we're still under this guise of, hey, we're gonna produce a annual summary or a biannual summary of our accounting practices, and you guys can go out and download the PDF and look at the aggregated data.
Vague as all hell.
Yeah, and it's hey, pour through the 10 pages of PDF file and figure out what's what. Well,
yeah.
Those
and if
days
you have accounting expertise, you can parse it. But if you don't, you're sitting there looking at, well, they spent money in the public works department on works that are public.
Yeah.
Congrats.
Well, it's okay. What budgetary line item did this go to? Like, what chart of accounts? What account did this come out of? Where were our expenses? Where were our assets accumulated?
Yeah.
Right? How do we
the ledger?
Let's look at the ledger, right? So this is my point. We have the technology now to be able to just aggregate. Like, I do this on a daily basis with clients. I'm a data engineer by trade.
Sick brag.
Not bragging. Anyway, but like, hey, let's get access. Sorry, my dog is scratching at me. I don't know. I took him for a walk already, but anyway, we have access to the data. The data is available through a FOIA request, right? So I can go out and say, in fact, I've done this for Egan, the city of Egan, is say, hey, I want to go, like, give me all the transactions for the last 3 years, right? So I did 3 years, 2021 through 2024. And they gave me a CSV file. I can load that to a database, build a dashboard, and voila. Well, why can't we have those in real time, right? Why can't I build a real-time API to go out and say, hey, give me all the transactions. We can bring them into a data warehouse. We can have the state auditor publish a dashboard where you can traverse any of your municipalities, your counties, your townships, your cities, and basically say, okay, well, here's all the transactions that have gone through, even if it's on a daily basis, right? I don't even care if it's monthly, right? Mm-hmm. Let's do monthly basis to start with, and say, okay, on a monthly basis, every month when you close the books, because you have an accounting period, right? I don't know if municipalities still work on an accounting period. I'm assuming they do. If they didn't, that would be kind of weird, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
every month you need to close out the books from the previous month and start out the books for the coming month.
Right. So when your accounting period closes, make those transactions available. Right? You've closed, you've reconciled, you're good. The comptroller signs off on it. Boom, you're good to go. Hey, that gets directed to the state auditor's office, gets appended to a data warehouse. It's available to be viewed through a dashboard, and you move on.
Something that's amazing that one could do with such a data warehouse is make queries like how much money and how many transactions have cities, counties, and municipalities funneled money to this one organization name?
Well, so that's one of the things. So I've been looking at developing at least a common protocol for saying, hey, all the vendors, we should have a federal ID number if there's a vendor that gets paid out, right?
Mhm.
So here's your ID number. We can accumulate that over different IDs. So each each municipality might have a different ID for that vendor, right? But at
It
least
is
we
also
can
the case that they all have either state or federal tax IDs.
exactly.
Is there
That's how
public,
you want to sort things.
is
Yeah.
that
federal
information being
PIN.
public? But that information being
That's
public
the
for them,
Secretary of State's office.
what about?
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it is.
Yeah.
So, like, realistic, I don't know what, like, the state auditor hasn't been doing much. Julie Blaha is an empty seat, right? She's there.
Julie Whiteclaw.
Yeah, Julie Whiteclaw.
To the point that they came within a hair's breadth of creating an OIG to do
Right.
the work that, I mean, if I'm understanding the structure of Minnesota correctly, the purpose of the OIG's office would be to investigate the groups and organizations that state taxpayer dollars are assigned to, which
Correct.
I'm pretty sure is the purpose of the Minnesota auditor.
Right. Which is absolutely bizarre. Like that was my question. I even sent a message to John Justice. I was like, dude, because he was talking about the Office of Inspector General, which didn't get a hearing, by the way, right? So that bill didn't get a hearing, was never passed on the floor. So it died. But it's interesting. It's like, why do we have a state auditor? Why do we need to create a whole new office for Inspector General to do the things that the state auditor should be doing?
That's bureaucracy, right? Charlie.
How about we just elect a new state auditor that's actually going to do the job?
Well, I think this stuff that you're talking about too, and just having that data is so easily created. Like you said, it could be just one link on the side of the website, but anybody can go, share this link, and then really nerds like us can really dig into that. Like Joey said, and do a pinpoint and be like, call some people out, be like, look at this and look at this.
So
Charley,
what's interesting is, number one, like you can look at the dashboard, right? You can see, okay, number one, where's all our transactions? Like what do we have going out? What do we have coming in? That's basic, right? And so then the next level is, okay, what was the approved budget for this time period, right? What was the approved budget? What are the approved budget line items for each account? And then start to correlate those together and say, okay, well, these transactions came out of this account, and now we're tracking towards a full-fledged budget, right? And say, okay, well, if we're in May and we've spent 60% of our budget on public works, right? We're trending in a way that is not going to look good at the end of the year, right? So we can almost forecast a tax incremental increase, right? So how do we start to remedy that? If we're forecasting a deficit and we're saying, hey, we know we're going to have to increase taxes, property taxes at the next assessment period. Well, we can actually take action as citizens at that point, right? Mm-hmm. We can actually take action prior to learning about a property tax increase.
Yeah, we can ask our city council members,
yeah,
hey, why is all this money being spent that wasn't part of the initial budget? Why are we approving this program now?
Exactly.
When we know that we don't have the money coming in to pay for it.
Yep. So this is my point. How we start to remedy this situation is by providing transparency to everybody. Now, imagine having a public API that kids that are going through a STEM program right now, right, are able to access with real-time data. And they want to build out a database, or they want to build out an analytics platform, or they want to start messing with AI, right? And they've got real data to do it with that's pertinent to them in the state of Minnesota, right? Imagine a school, right, going through this and training them on how to audit their municipality.
Man, imagine someone uncovering something like that with real, like an assignment. Like, all right, you do Owatonna, you do Red Lake, you do Minnetonka, and then next thing you know, Joey over here is, or I just use Joey, but just
Sure.
Joey's
But
like, hey, Miss H, look at this, and a few heads scratching, like, holy crap, we
the
just
beautiful
uncovered.
thing about this is like this appeals to like a large swath of the population, right? The people that are disaffected with politics right now, the people that are I mean, maybe not everybody will understand the technical process of it, but what it will allow for as well is for independent media to be and mainstream media, right, to dig into the data and start to develop narratives in their stories and say, look, here's what's happening in this area. This is the data that's published by the state auditor's website. It's open source. It's available for anybody to go out and disprove. You can go out and disprove a narrative, right? If somebody takes it and says, oh, well, here's, this is what's happening here. And it's like, no, I mean, maybe not until you ask the question. But the point of my theory is this gets people asking questions.
Yeah.
Instead of sensationalizing a story, it gets people back to the root of, hey, we can ask the questions. And that's what it comes down to.
Well, I think
start asking questions again.
The Doge, all that stuff that was going on with Doge and everything that just kept coming out, like, oh, look at where we're spending here, look at what we're spending here, and then we're kind of like, oh, that meme with the guy sitting behind the tree, and he's just like, oh yeah, we're gonna be cutting a lot of stuff, and then they just rubber stamp all that shit. Are you kidding me? I mean, I guess I don't know about all of it, but I think they
continuing resolution.
I think I do have a I appreciate the efforts that Doge went through to find things. My problem with the implementation of Doge is that it was hasty and it wasn't planned out. I'm not looking to sensationalize data. I'm looking to make it so common, right, that nobody blinks an eye.
In many ways, this effort would preclude something like the ways that Doge ended up rolling out, because they wouldn't be spending the first 3 weeks digging through a pile of who knows what and coming up for air every couple of hours to say, oh my God, look what we found. Yeah. It's like, no, that's been publicly available for months. Why are you? Yeah.
And I think my hesitation is that, I imagine maybe it's died down now, but the Minnesota GOP was talking about, oh, we're going to bring Doge to Minnesota. And it's like, yeah, but no, it's like, I don't think that's the appropriate way to implement it. Right. I think an appropriate implementation is let's start exposing the data to the public. Mm-hmm. Instead of targeting certain areas and looking for things, I'm not interested in that.
You expose the entire data set to the public, and people will look for what they want to look for, find it, ask questions, make statements. People will fact check them, and everything will end up above board because that's how it started.
Exactly.
Sounds like a free market to me. Yeah, like if it was
informed consent. That first word is very important,
right?
Well, and so this is my point. Is like I don't think. If whoever runs for state auditor for the Minnesota GOP runs on a Doge platform, I hope that they're going about it in a certain way, but I can't guarantee that they are, because I don't think that they have the same vision. I don't think they have the same clarity of what's capable. I think they're running off of some sensationalization of the process, and they don't know how to implement it, right? Now, the other side is the Minnesota DFL has not implemented anything like this in the last 8 years that Julie Blaha has been in power or in that chair. She doesn't understand what is out there. I'm sure she does. I'm sure there's people that don't want her to do things, But hey, this is a pathway forward. This is a plan to move us forward over the next. And it's just a start. It's just a start over the next 4 years, right? Get a start going. Like let's try something different, because what we're doing now is absolutely insane. And
I think any movement towards transparency, man, is good when it's talking about government and whatever, local governments especially, right? That's where it starts, and that's where folks really need to get into it, right? I mean,
yeah. Well, so that's it, right? It's got to come down to like, let's have those conversations at a local level again. Let's be transparent, and let's say, hey, like I want to go to my city council meeting and say, look, I see these transactions over the past month. Can we validate these? Like these have gone through the process. Why are we trending this way now? Like what happened? What changed? And please explain it to me. Like just and if it's like, okay, I have to submit this a week ahead of time for them to gather information, fine. Like at least we can have that conversation. But know that these things are coming, right? Know that this is going to happen. And if it doesn't, we're going to continue down this pathway of losing trust in the people that are trying to lead us.
I don't have much faith in those leaders, and I don't think many do already, but
I get scared because the people that are in leadership positions right now in the government, they don't have clear objectives. They don't have a vision of what they're trying to achieve. Maybe they do. Most of them are decent people. Most of them are decent people with at least empathetic ideas.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that maybe their ideas might lead them into something that they didn't plan on. They don't have that long-term vision of what they're trying to achieve or how to achieve it. So it can't just be the standard run of the mill. Hey, we're gonna tax the shit out of everybody until we get everybody that falls under the boot and says, oh, too bad, you have no income now. You have to do what we tell you to do because we are in charge.
Sounds exactly like the end of democracy, man. I think that's it's always the case. Hey, all right. Well, let's wrap up with talking about this weekend. Grand Old Day. Are you guys going to be making it out there at all? Am I going to see I'll be there the first half of the day.
I am
there the whole day.
I'm flying to San Francisco.
San Francisco?
Yeah.
Right on.
I get to go to a tech summit. So
fun.
Have fun.
Do more AI stuff.
Yeah.
Everybody wants AI. Everybody wants AI right now. I gotta
thoughts on nuclear. Because AI is an excuse for people to bring back talking about nuclear.
Well, eventually,
what do you think about nuclear energy?
Yeah, unless DeepSeek can run on pittance of energy.
Oh, we finally got a comment. We're just about to wrap up the show. We finally got a comment. Who did you vote for in 24? Well, that's personal.
I'm not going to dignify that with a response. We're talking about state and local politics here. It doesn't need to be about the federal.
I voted for TJ Hawthorne, District 44B, and Rebecca Whiting for.
There you go, Rebecca Whiting,
U.S. Senate. Yeah, that was a good run.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's show up. Everybody else that's listening, anybody LPMN folks, show up. Let's have some fun at Grand Old Day. I think I'm gonna bring like a case of beer and just have a lot of fun, and maybe that'll attract people if I don't get too stupid. I don't know. I got softball at 6 and 7, so I won't be too much of a puddle.
All right.
Well, thank you all for tuning in. This has been Minnesota Liberty, hosted by the Libertarian Party of Minnesota. If you like what we're doing and would like to join us, go to lpmn.org and click join. And if you want to support us, lpmn.org/donate.
Awesome.
All right. Night, you guys.
All right.